Hello and welcome to State of the Union. I'm Stefan Gробbe in Brussels. The situation in Europe's southeastern neighborhood escalated dramatically over the past days. Following 2 weeks of Israeli strikes in southern Lebanon and the killing of the leader of Iran-backed terrorist group Hezbollah, Tehran hit back. At least 180 missiles were fired at Tel Aviv and other Israeli locations, causing only minor damage. The reason is that most of the missiles were intercepted by Israel's air defense and US and British forces operating in the region. International observers are now worried that future strikes could push the region closer to the brink. Even before the Iranian attack, the EU foreign policy chief called upon the parties concerned to avoid further bloodshed.
Hezbollah fired rockets and other projectiles into Israel territory since 8 October has to stop. The sovereignty of both Israel and Lebanon has to be guaranteed, and any further military intervention would dramatically aggravate the situation, and it has to be avoided.
On the other side of the Mediterranean, Michel Barnier finally revealed his cards. The new French Prime Minister delivered his first political address to the National Assembly, announcing further belt-tightening and further taxes to reverse spiraling debts. He asked the wealthiest individuals and large companies to pay their fair share of taxes.
Mais la situation de nos comptes demande aujourd'hui un effort ciblé, limité dans le temps, un effort partagé dans une exigence de justice fiscale. Ce partage de l'effort nous conduiront à demander une participation au redressement collectif aux grandes et aux très grandes entreprises qui réalisent des profits importants.
Despite Barnier's making the case of tax justice, many ordinary French fear that, in the end, they will have to foot the bill. French unions took to the street to put social demands at the heart of the political debate. Their message to Barnier was, "We are watching you." One group always creating headaches for French governments are farmers, representing one of the most important economic sectors of the country. In his speech, Barnier promised further aid to farmers, but the situation requires a fundamental rethinking of the way agriculture is run in Europe, not only in France. Nobody has forgotten yet the massive farmers' protest across Europe at the beginning of the year. To go deeper on this issue, let's bring in Marco Contiero, EU Agriculture Policy Director at Greenpeace. Welcome to the program.
Thanks a lot for inviting me.
So Greenpeace is out with a new report warning that there are less and less family-run farms and much larger so-called mega farms. Why is that a bad thing?
Well, the concern is that if we want to maintain rural areas filled with farms, with rural jobs, with specifically agricultural workers, and with rural communities that live around these farms, we need to maintain farmers on the ground. If we go towards a US model, so to say, with farms on average having 300 hectares per farm, we're going to empty rural areas. And this is something that will clearly have negative impacts in terms of social and economic also realities on the ground.
Let's talk about this impact. What are the consequences of this development for the farming business, for consumers, and for us as society?
The problem is that we've been treating farmers as if they were one single entity. We clearly show with this report that there are a majority of rather small-scale family farms which are struggling economically, which in many cases are actually getting out of business. And there is a very minority of large-scale farms that have seen their profits increasing. So there is this gap is massively increasing, and we need to come out with policy solutions to stop this gap from widening and to start helping smaller family farmers and businesses that have to be helped because they are a victim of a system.
And finally, what would you tell young people who consider a professional life in farming? Would you support them or rather discourage them?
I want to be able to encourage them to get into farming because this will clearly provide a very good outcome. The problem we're now facing in the farming sector is that there is an aging population. Average age of farmers is below 57, and we absolutely need a generational renewal. But for this generational renewal to happen, we need to provide young farmers entering the business with a lot of potential successes. Right now, for them is extremely difficult because land prices are very high. They have been driven up also by the common agricultural policy, paying farmers on the basis of the land they own or they work. And we need to transition towards a system where we reward farmers that do the right thing in order to bring them to a position where they can make a fair amount of money out of their business.
All right, Marco Contiero, Greenpeace EU Agriculture Policy Director. Thanks for coming on the show today.
Thanks a lot for inviting me again. Bye-bye.
Speaking of agriculture, these twin brothers from Britain have been trying to grow the world's largest pumpkin. And this year, they think they might have cracked it. The brothers, who have 4 pumpkins growing for the challenge, say their produce is increasing by an average of 30 kilograms a day and take hundreds of liters of water. To grow them this big, it only takes 1 seed, but this pumpkin is being fed by 2,500 roots that the twin growers have been monitoring every day since April. They're expected to reach 1,500 kilograms each, the pumpkins, not the growers. If this gives you any ideas, the world record for the heaviest pumpkin to beat is 1,246.9 kilos, set just last year, according to the Guinness Book. That's it. I'm Stefan Gробе. Thank you for watching. Take care and goodbye.